Today we're going to go over the best photography settings for any camera. A lot of us, especially in the beginning, go searching for the best camera settings we can find. Some kind of magical camera settings we think our favorite photographer uses to get the results that he or her gets. And that if we find these settings, then somehow our pictures will come out the same way. But every time we get an answer to that question, it's always, well, it depends, or there are no magical camera settings. So how are they getting great pictures? Today I'm going to guide you through my thought process when I'm taking pictures to get the results that I get. I created a simple chart that breaks down my whole thought process when I'm setting up my camera to do a photo shoot. The very first thing I do on my camera is choose the aperture. I always ask myself, how much do I need in focus? Since aperture controls depth of field, the higher the aperture, then the more that will be in focus and the less blurry the background will be. The lower the aperture, the less you have in focus and the more blurry the background will be. So if whatever you're shooting has a lot of depth to it, like a group of people or you're shooting landscape photography, then you might want to start off at f5.6 and go higher depending on how much you need. If you don't need a lot in focus, let's say if you're shooting a portrait and there's only one person, then you can start your aperture at f5.6 and go lower depending on how blurry you want your background or how low your lens can go. So once I have everything I need in focus and everything I want out of focus, I move on to shutter speed. You have to ask yourself, is my subject in motion? If your subject is in motion and you want to freeze that motion, then you have to use a shutter speed that's fast enough to freeze them in place. Let's say you're shooting something like a moving car, where you want the car to be frozen, but you still want to show the wheel motion to show that it's in motion. In that case, you have to use a shutter speed that's fast enough to freeze the car, but not too fast where it stops the wheel motion from happening. If your subject is not in motion, then you want to set your shutter speed to at least that of your focal length. So if you're shooting on an 85mm lens, you want to make your shutter speed at least 1/85. If you're shooting on a 50mm lens, you want to make your shutter speed at least 1/50. This is a good starting point because it eliminates any camera shake from your hands. If your camera or lens has image stabilization, then you might be able to go 2 stops lower than that because the camera or the lens is going to do a little compensating for the hand motions. If you have a tripod, then you can go as slow as you need to go because nothing's moving. Now we're going to set our ISO. We want this number to be as low as we possibly can get it. Some cameras go as low as 50, maybe 100, some cameras only go down to 200. But whatever it is on your camera, set it as low as it can possibly go. At this point, one of 3 things could be possible. Number 1, the image is underexposed and it's too dark. Number 2, the image can be overexposed and it's too bright. Or if you got a magical number 3, the image will be perfect, but I doubt it. If your image is overexposed, then you have no choice but to increase your shutter speed or increase your aperture. Now if you didn't have any specific motion requirements for your shutter speed, then you can just go ahead and increase it to get the proper exposure that you need. If motion was important, then go ahead and increase your aperture. I'd rather more to be in focus than I need than to have an overexposed image. Also, these are your only 2 options, being that your ISO is as low as it can go. Now you can use other things like ND filters, but if you don't have them, then you can't use them. If your image is underexposed, check out the shutter speed and see if you can go any slower than you already have. If not, then check out your aperture. Can you lower it without losing too much focus depth? Or maybe your aperture is already maxed out. If that's the case, then you have to increase your ISO. Only raise your ISO as high as you need to, and don't worry about losing quality because you've done everything that you possibly could to get the proper exposure. I'd rather have a little noise in the picture that we can deal with than to have a blurry picture that doesn't capture what we were trying to capture in the first place. I'll leave a link to this chart down in the description box, so make sure to thumbs up, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at Erwin Marionneaux, and I'll see you guys next time.